With Nicole, Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about Conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Wellness Wednesday. Wellness Wednesday is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to have a conversation about whatever it is we want to talk about. And today, we are discussing why everybody needs therapy, especially Black folks. So, July is Minority or BIPOC Mental Health Awareness Month. And y'all, guess what today is? Today is my birthday. Today is my birthday. I'm super excited. It's been a wonderful day. I have had just an outpouring of love and well wishes and greetings and gifts and things today. And so I really appreciate all of the sentiments. So I have invited all of you to come and be part of the conversation today. So, as I typically do, I ask that in the comments, if you would put your city and state in so we can give you a shout out. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the Greater Works Network on Roku TV. So, this is an interactive conversation. I do expect to hear from you. Your comments, your questions. This is a safe space for us to express ourselves and communicate with one another. And so I invite you to do that as well. So my very special guest tonight is Dr. Terry Parks, based in Atlanta, the ATL. And so I am super excited and delighted to have him with me today. So if you all will, y'all are a little quiet right now. Go ahead and in the comments, put in your city and your state. Put in your city and your state. We do like to hear from you and acknowledge you. Acknowledge you. Again, like I said, today is my birthday, and I did spend some time doing a photo shoot, which is why the face is all beat up. Y'all know I don't, normally I'm not this glammed up, but I figured I'd keep it on for the show tonight since today was my special day. So again, I've really had a great day and appreciate all of the folks that have been showing me some birthday love today. So thank you. All right. Well, I'm gonna move right on because time is of the essence, and I want to get on with this conversation. So today, my guest is Dr. Terry L. Parks. He has over 25 years of working with children, adults, couples, and families through such facilities as juvenile centers, group homes, residential treatment facilities, and prisons. He began his private practice as a licensed professional counselor in 2015, and specifically as the executive director of a new approach behavioral health. He works with clients to facilitate change through teaching effective skill building techniques to help regulate deficiencies or deficits rather in emotion regulation through individual, family, and group counseling. He's recognizing the need for sustainable services targeted to assist in eradicating domestic violence and abusive behavior. So Dr. Parks, he created his organization to educate individuals on ways to implement positive change in their lives by learning how to end the cyclical patterns of violence, regulate emotions, and treating addiction, which we probably are going to touch on tonight, some of that with our topic. So, a little bit more about his background. He graduated from Andrews University, holds a joint MSA degree in behavioral science and business administration, also holds a doctoral degree in counseling psychology from Argosy University, and his dissertation topic was understanding the stay-leave phenomena in intimate partner violence. Wow! And so we actually had to talk about intimate partner violence last month. As Parks is a Dr. Parks is a licensed professional counselor and is trained in prevention and management and aggressive behaviors, as well as dialectical behavior therapy. He is a certified family violence intervention program owner and facilitator. And again, the accolades just kind of go on and on for Dr. Parks. So y'all help me welcome Dr. Teddy Parks.
Hey, yay. All right. Well, thanks for having me. That was a lot. You
Yeah.
have to listen to what it's like, wow, I did all of that stuff.
You did all that. That was you, brother. Well, thank
Oh,
you so much for being here. So, our mutual friend, Mr. A. London Arrington, connected us. Actually, he told me about you quite some time ago and was talking with him recently, and it just hit me. It was like, I never contacted Dr. Terry Parks. So, hit you up. You were just a joy to talk to. And so, here we are. So tell the peoples who may not know who Dr. Terry Parks is, who are you? Not what you do, but who is Terry
uh, I am just a black man trying to help my people, plain and simple. Help them regulate emotions, help them um, with their mindfulness skills, help them with their um, the distress tolerance. Just so many things. I do bariatric psychologicals for people who are having surgery. I see families and children, and haven't been seeing too many children since COVID because it's hard for them to stay still this way. So I prefer to see them in person.
Parks?
Individuals, couples, and I also am a domestic violence um, facilitator for the state of Georgia. So I'm just a simple guy, like simple things, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay. All right. Y'all, he's being real humble and modest right
Well,
now. But it's okay. We gonna roll
you
right.
had everything, so there's nothing else to say.
We gonna roll with it. All right. So I see all of you with all these happy birthday greetings. I'm gonna just say thank you to all of you. Please tag somebody and let them know they need to be on here because this is gonna be good. Look, Lisa said it. This is gonna be a great conversation. So tag them, like, share, let them know they need to be on here. All right, so it's Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and you and I talked about like why therapy is important. Why should people be going to therapy, especially Black folks? So give me your thoughts on that, Dr. Parks.
Yeah, well, I think we all need therapy, and I'm not just saying, for just Black folks right now, but everyone needs therapy.
Hmm.
And everyone needs therapy because we go through different things daily that affect, our mental health. Okay. Our emotional, psychological, and social well being. Matter of fact, that's what mental health is. Um, and it affects the way our mental health affects the way we, how we think, cognition, how we feel, emotions, and how we act, which is behavior. And with good mental health, it helps us handle stress, relate to others, and make good choices. And mental health is important at every stage of your life, from childhood and adolescence on through adulthood. But it's important that we have, mental health, or we go to counseling, because there are a lot of things that happen to us and we never ever sit down and talk about it. Okay,
Mhm.
sometimes we'll hold it in. Sometimes we may talk to people who are not the right people.
Mm.
Okay, but more so, it's important for Black folks because of where we come from, because of our history, and because of our trauma, and because of everything else that we've had to go through. And so it's important that we seek help for those issues that we may have. A lot of us walk around and people don't know why we behave the way we do. Well, a lot of it has to do with trauma, and for Black folks, you have to go all the way back to slavery, because that's where it started for us. Now, what a lot of people probably don't know is that trauma changes your DNA. Okay. So when you think about that, and you think about, you're out here working in the cotton fields, and some overseer just walks up and rapes you right out there in front of everybody, and then gets up and gets back on his horse, and you got to go back to work, as trauma. You see your, father beat with the inch of his life. It's trauma. Seeing him split between two horses, seeing him put in a barrel with spikes turned inward and nailed and rolled down a hill. That's trauma. Seeing your, baby brother cut out of your mom's, all that's trauma. And so we have to deal with that, and we're still dealing with those things. And when we don't deal with it appropriately, it comes out in other ways. Okay. It comes
So
out in other ways.
let me pause you right there. All right.
Mhm.
So, for those that might believe that, slavery, that was what, 1865 was, when we
That's
got,
when we were
when
free.
we were free, right? And
Right.
so, how can some stuff from 1865 or before 1865, how can that be affecting me in 2022?
How can it be affecting you? Well, excuse me. I'm kind of trying to fight off something. I hope it's not
Uh-oh.
a cold.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, so um, how is something affecting you? Anytime we have unresolved issues, they sit with us. And if we don't talk about it, as I mentioned earlier, we never get it off of our chest, or we never say anything, it stays with us. Think about a time when you were mad with someone
Mm-hmm.
and you said, you know what, I have nothing else to say to them. I'm not dealing. And so you just keep going on about your life, doing whatever, but you're ruminating, which is you overthinking it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's bothering you in other ways. So you may do things like what? Overeat. You may get, or you may not eat, or you may get involved in things like, substance abuse. You
Mm-hmm.
may drink, you may smoke, you may snort, shoot up, whatever it is you do. And then, and I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. When I'm doing psychologicals for folks who are having bariatric surgery, I
Mm-hmm.
say, take me back to where you were born and raised, and tell me about your history. And what I find is a lot of folks are the way they are based on traumatic events that happen. They will say, oh, I had a good childhood. Or they'll say, my childhood was okay. And I'll say, okay, well, do you think it could have been better? Yeah. And then when you open that up, they start talking about how my mom was there, but she was not there. My dad was abusive, or my dad was an alcoholic, or my mom, um, she never, she always told me that she was coming back to get me, and she never did. And so I was raised by my grandparents, and, they always had food. And so, you found shelter in food, but you felt that you had a good childhood. And in fact, there were some issues that you never dealt with. And that those issues being, hey, I wanted my mom and she wasn't there. So I found solace in food. And so you continue to use that growing up. And then you say, when you come in this session, well, I've been big all my life. Well, actually, you weren't. You started, you ate your way to that based on the trauma that you experienced. A lot of people don't understand when a child comes through the womb, that's traumatic. That's traumatic. That's why they come out crying. It's like they're hollering because they're getting pushed through something. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm coming out of this thing that, was keeping me warm. And that's why a lot of people are now having, home births and things like that, and have a doula. You push them right out into the water. So they still kind of feel like they have that, that surrounding.
Right.
And when we talk about mental health for us, we don't typically go. We're going now,
Right.
okay, but not like our white counterparts, okay. And when you talk about mental health, or there's a history of why we don't go to therapy.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Let me give you the history. So the history is we suffer from the same issue as white folks do, but probably at a greater degree due to what? What are some of our issues? Racism we're dealing with. We're dealing with economic disparities, prejudice. We have to deal with all of that, okay? Now, there's a stigma about therapy or mental illness. All right. And so people don't want to be labeled as what? Crazy if you go to see a therapist. So let me go ahead and make everybody feel better tonight. There's no such diagnosis as crazy. There is no diagnosis. You can look at the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and there is no diagnosis called crazy. Okay?
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. We don't want people knowing our business. Okay. We don't want people knowing our business and say, hey, don't be telling them folks who go on in here. I don't want people knowing my, and it's a therapist. It's funny because at my church, a lot of people know what I do, but they won't confide in me. And they'll go confide in someone else who is actually lighter than me. And here's the wild thing. One of my colleagues, who is a white gentleman, he's since retired, and he said, "Man, you must be making a lot of money over there at your church." I'm like, "Why would you say that?" And he was like, "You know how many people I see from your church?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know." And he was like, "I see a ton of them." But I think they feel that, well, I'm going to be pillow talking, or I'm going to be talking to other members of the church.
You're going to be telling their business.
Right. Or I'm going to violate confidentiality. And I'm like, I'm bound by confidentiality. I would not jeopardize my license to talk about your issues. Okay. What's the other thing? Sometimes we're embarrassed. We're embarrassed if we seek help. It's an embarrassment. It's a sign of weakness. Okay? Yes. It's a sign of weakness. I ain't going to see nobody. I don't need to see nobody. They just need to do this, or I just need to do that. And especially if you're a man, we're taught what? To man up.
Right.
Man up. What does that mean?
Right.
What does that mean? And being a man, or a real man, or man up, it's based on whoever's got the definition, whoever's defining it that day. Okay. What else? We don't cry. Men don't cry, and it's, we're always told, as I mentioned earlier, to get over it. Get over that happened over 400 years ago. Yeah, but you keep taking me back. It's like in my domestic violence classes, guys will ask me, well, Dr. Parks, how do you get a woman to stop talking about the past? She's always bringing up the past. And I was like, you seriously got to ask me that question? You seriously got to ask me that. The answer to that is stop living the past. If you stop living the past, I won't have to bring it up.
Sir.
Doing those things. Stop doing those things that keep taking us back there. You keep taking me back. You say you ain't gonna do this. You ain't gonna do. And every time I turn around, it's somebody in your phone. It's somebody questionable. You going over here. You keep taking me back there. That's how they keep the past fresh. Okay.
So I got to pause right there because you mentioned remunerating, which we have heard that term on the show before from another clinician, which is that whole overthinking, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
ruminating. Yes.
ruminating.
Mhm.
And so with the ruminating, I think that's a big part of the problem
Mhm.
is us playing, and I call it playing the recording over and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And so now we made these thoughts reality, and sometimes it's not based in reality, right?
Right.
It's the stories that we've made up in our heads about this thing or
Mhm.
this person or what have you. You know, you talked about these unresolved issues, and now it's turned into this big mountain of feelings that we have about it, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now we have these behaviors associated with the feelings that we have about it based on these thoughts that we
Mhm.
had that we kept telling ourselves, which may or may not have been the case. All right.
Right. And that's a very valid point because in my practice and in my time of doing therapy, what I realize is like, you know, we kind of like are the problem, the cause of our own issues,
Yes.
you know, due to the way we look at things, the way
Mm-hmm.
we interpret things, and how we've allowed things to fester without dealing with it. Okay.
Yes.
Because once you know the difference between right and wrong, okay, I need to do something about this. I need to get help about this, or I need to do whatever. But you want to blame someone else for what has, where you are. You caused me to do this. Well, let me just say this. You can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So blame does what? It pulls the responsibility and accountability off of you and puts it on to the other person. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're talking about this, I want to get back because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to get back to why we don't go to therapy. So we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about manning up and being weakness or whatever. We totally get over it. Well, here's the thing too: our lack of knowledge about therapy. Okay, that's what holds us back from seeking therapy and what could happen if you attend. Man, I ain't going over there. They ain't putting me in no straitjacket. They're gonna put me in a padded room, or they're gonna, start trying to give me medication or whatever. And again, you don't want it. What's the thing in Vegas? What happens in
What
Vegas stays in
happened
Vegas.
in
You
Vegas?
know, black folks was doing that before Vegas. That commercial even came out. you know, you don't talk about your business. Don't go out there talking about business in that street.
Don't be telling my business in the street.
Don't be talking about nothing that go on in this house.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of had a market on that, well before. And
And then,
so now when we talk about, why we don't go, let's talk about what are the issues. And here is the thing for me. I believe that all of our mental health issues are rooted in trauma.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, this is important because
Okay.
this is important why Black folks should go to therapy. Remember what
Okay.
I said earlier about slavery and the whole nine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is important because I feel all of our mental health issues are rooted in trauma. So once you get past the trauma, then the healing can begin. Most of my clients, well, all of my clients, when they come in, even if it's couples therapy, I talk about trauma first. And then I move from there. And then that's how they realize, like, wow, I didn't know that was affecting me that way. I didn't know this was going on. So, what is trauma? Okay. Trauma. Trauma just means injury to the mind, the body, and the spirit. Okay. And Dr. James Gordon, you know, he says that, and he's a founder for, mind, body, medicine in Washington, D.C. He says it's not that the trauma happens, it's that it happens over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay. That's the issue. Okay.
So,
And
So hold on. So when you say it happens over and over and over again, is this because of the ruminating? Is this because of ruminating?
No, this happens. This and that some of it. But what happens is it happens over and over again because you haven't dealt with it. So there are different triggers that keep setting it off. That keep bringing it back. They keep bringing these things back. So this is trauma. And I have my brain in here? Oh, I do. Give me just a second.
Okay. Oh, this is show and tell around here. He got a brain for us, y'all.
I forgot I had my brain. Okay.
Here, y'all ain't ready for Dr. Parks.
So when we're talking about this, when we're talking about trauma, okay, trauma is this totally unusual experience, okay, wherein let me open up my brain so you can.
Oh my
see
goodness! It opens
I don't know if
to.
you can see that. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so trauma is this totally unusual experience that happens when someone, it happens to someone wherein the nervous system, let me turn it here, I'm trying to read, the nervous system and its capacity to process the event becomes overwhelmed. Okay? Yeah, there you go. It becomes overwhelmed. I'm trying to turn this thing right.
There you go.
All right, there we go. Okay, now pieces of that experience get left behind, okay, and frozen, unprocessed in the brain. Let me say that again. Trauma is this unusual experience that happens to someone wherein the nervous system and its capacity to process the event, okay, becomes overwhelmed and pieces of that is left behind, frozen in the brain. Okay, unprocessed, if you were. Okay, let me see. Unprocessed. Now, when the flow of energy hits these different spots, what you have is, or what we call is trauma experiencing. Trauma experiencing. Now, let me speak on R. Kelly for a minute. Okay. Now, everybody wanted to throw R. Kelly under the bus. Okay. And I get that and I understand that. But what I didn't hear anybody talking about was the trauma that he suffered at the hands of his sister and some other people, that were in the neighborhood. Okay. Remember what I said. It's this experience that happens, okay, where your nervous system and its capacity to process it becomes overwhelmed. So imagine being a 7-year-old, 9-year-old boy, and your sister, the person who you're supposed to trust, okay, is sexually abusing you. Your nervous system and the capacity to process that cannot, at an age, it's too much. So you begin to grow older, Michael Jackson, but you still are kind of stuck in this arrested development. Your prefrontal cortex, which is right up here, your frontal lobe, your frontal lobe, your parietal lobe, your occipital lobe, your temporal lobe, okay? You still have a certain affinity to young kids because when the trauma happened to you, remember what I said, it's frozen, unprocessed, left in the brain. So certain things trigger it and it comes out. I'm not trying to give R. Kelly a pass, but what I'm saying is how many of us look at the trauma of what happened to someone to describe or explain the reason they're behaving the way they're behaving. Not a lot of us do because they're not therapists and they don't understand trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand trauma. Okay. Now, did you have another question?
You have said quite a bit there. And I am very much so in agreement. I often say how some, when I'm watching the news and I see, Ray Ray and Tyrone and all these others on the news, right? With locks everywhere, tattoos all over their face, all of these things, that something happened, or some things happened, or some things did not happen that should have happened. Which is why we see this, why they're jacking people for their cars or whatever they're doing, right?
Okay.
And
Right.
so, I mean, I've not had this clinical or, this biological, with the brain and all of that demonstration before. So that is very powerful. And to hear you say those words about what happens to it is also very powerful. So I just want us to, as you stated, how many of us look at it from a traumatic standpoint? Like we look at the tragedy or the trauma of what this, the person who's causing this, but something happened to them.
Right. Right. So one of the fascinating, symptoms of trauma is the recurrence of, okay, the recurrence of. It's just like, it just keeps, it's just, it keeps coming, it keeps coming, it keeps coming. And here's the thing: we all suffer trauma. Okay, we all suffer from trauma. If you live long enough, Nicole, you're gonna experience trauma. Nobody gets to go through life without experiencing trauma. And guess what? Trauma doesn't have to be sexual abuse. It doesn't have to be molestation. It doesn't have to be, it could be or rape. It could be, I lost my arm. I lost my eye. I lost my home. I lost my car. I lost, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those things are traumatic incidences, and our day-to-day activities kind of run parallel with trauma. Oh my God. Think, single mother. Oh my God, how am I going to get my kids' school started? They need new school clothes. How am I going to keep these lights on? How am I going to get to work? I don't have a car. My car broke down. They're talking about that right there kind of runs parallel with trauma. You wanted to say something?
So let me ask you this. Yeah. So is trauma self-defined? Meaning, okay, so if you're a single mom and you got to get the school clothes, but if your thoughts about getting the school clothes is not from a stressful or a worryation standpoint, does that lessen the probability of it being traumatic for you?
Does it
Your
lessen?
mindset about it, your thoughts or your mindset about whatever this experience is.
Well, I think if you change your mindset, you see what I'm
Mhm.
saying, about it, it will lessen it. Because again, okay, um, cognitive behavior therapy, that's basically just changes the way you see things.
Right.
Okay. That's what that is. Cognitive behavior therapy. Now, if you can change your mindset about, if you can, in some things, you have to radically accept. What does that mean? Now that's a powerful term, radical acceptance. What does radical acceptance mean? Radical is what? What does that mean? I'm going to ask you that question, Nicole. What does radical mean?
You can't quiz me on my birthday.
Oh, I can't quiz you on your birthday. Radical means it's painful. Okay.
Okay.
It's coming from the gut. Let's pull up some of my notes. Okay. It's
Okay.
painful. It's coming from the gut. Radical. Now, here's the thing. All right. If pain is a part of life, can't always be avoided. Okay. If you don't deal with your pain effectively, you may act impulsively. And if you act impulsively, you may end up hurting yourself, someone else, and not getting your goal met. Okay. So now let's look at this radical acceptance. Pain is a part of life. What is pain? Emotional or physical distress that cannot always be avoided. What is suffering? Suffering is not accepting the pain. This is why people suffer, because they don't accept the pain. Acceptance is letting go of fighting reality. Letting go of fighting reality, taking suffering you can't cope with into pain you can cope with. Let me say that again.
Yeah.
Turning suffering you can't cope with into pain you can cope with, because if you can do that, you will realize that what? Pain is a part of life and can't always be avoided.
Mm.
People suffer because they don't accept the pain. Now, here's the problem. Acceptance doesn't mean you're destined to a life of pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's not what that means. Doesn't mean that you soft or weak. In a nutshell, radical acceptance just means it is what it is.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But here's the problem. This is a problem where people have with radical acceptance. They think that acceptance equals approval.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay.
Now, that's where the problem lies. Acceptance does not equal approval. I'll give you an example. Let's say this dad wants, he finds out he's going to be, this man finds out he's going to be a father and he's excited. And he was like, yeah. Then he finds out I'm going to have a boy. Okay. So now I'm going to get out here. I'm going to give him basketball, football, baseball. I'm going to just throw everything at him. And then you find out later in the pregnancy that your child is going to have some issues and he'll probably be a paraplegic and he'll be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Wow. So now that dad has to do what? He has to radically accept that his child is not going to be the athlete he wants him to be. Remember what I said? Radical acceptance, the painful letting go. It's painful. It's coming from the gut. That dad has to radically accept that his son is not going to be. Now, does dad approve of it? No, he doesn't. But he accepts it. Why? Because it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance does not equal approval.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I want to get back to trauma.
Yes.
I want to talk about intergenerational trauma. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I do. So do you, again, so something that is traumatic for one person, it could be the same type of event, but it could possibly not be traumatic for someone else, correct?
That is true.
Okay.
That is true.
All right.
Somebody may say, like, man, I don't know how we're going to keep these lights on. They said they're turning them off. Somebody else, we'll just go buy some candles. Go buy some candles, go get some flashlights. We'll be all right. That type of thing, So yeah, somebody, trauma for someone may not be trauma for someone else. Okay.
Right.
So let's talk about this thing. Intergenerational trauma. What does intergenerational trauma mean? Now I'm asking myself because it's your birthday. So I'm going to answer my own question. Okay. Intergenerational trauma. Okay.
All right.
Intergenerational trauma, that's behavior that is passed on from parents to children, okay, without us even knowing. Okay. You ever say, when you got in trouble or something happened when you were a kid, I'm never going to treat my kids this way. I'm never going to do this. And then when you have kids, you do the same thing because that's what we do the familiar. And so we pass that on from generation to generation to generation. As I said before, when I'm dealing with my bariatric clients, we talk about, their eating patterns. Like, for instance, one of the things on the exam talks about using, food as a reward or using food as comfort. And you got to think about it. Okay. When you were a little kid and you were feeling sad, what did mom or dad say? Hey, come on, let's go get an ice cream cone. And so you associate an ice cream cone with feeling good. Okay. Those are those behavior patterns that get passed on. All right. So now, when we're talking about intergenerational trauma, we got to talk about this thing called secure attachment. Okay. Secure attachment. Now, this is very important. Okay. We're talking about secure attachment. This happens with the process of maternal bonding. Okay. Process of maternal bonding. When a newborn, experiences what is called a safe haven. A newborn experiences this thing called a safe haven. A safe haven is when someone looks at you with that look of love. They're making eye contact, lets you know you're special to them. And then when you do like your tone of voice, you know, or rubbing feet or rubbing the back or that safe touch or brushing hair, all of that makes for good bonding. Okay. Now, the issue is that most of us didn't have that. Most of us didn't have that. When you think about our relatives, our ancestors, think about that. Got to push that baby out and get back in the field the next day and work. You don't have time to cuddle. You don't have time to caress. You don't have time to do all of this. Okay. Right. And when that happens, okay, it results in an insecurity and trauma at a very deep level. Now, what is insecurity? Insecurity is based out of myth and fear. Insecurity is based out of myth and fear. So if Nicole
myth, wait a minute.
Myth and fear.
So
explain it.
But okay. Go ahead. Again, I'm going back to the ruminating. But go ahead. I'm gonna let you do it. Go on.
Okay. So okay. So insecurity is based out of myth and fear. Okay. So now if Nicole is sitting around with her girls and they just talking about men, and it's just like, all these men out here just dogs. They just want one thing and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Insecurity is based out of myth and fear. What is the myth? Okay. If Nicole got a man at home and or all these women got men and they just out here talking about men, you know, or they don't, what's the myth? The myth is all men. What's the fear? I got a man at home, so he must be a dog. I can't talk to nobody because he must be a dog. Insecure feelings. Insecurity is based out of myth and fear. Wow. Plain and simple. Let's get back to secure attachment. Okay. Now, when you talk about, oh, girl, he's so insecure, myth and fear.
Myth and fear. Okay.
Myth and fear. All right. So when we're talking about secure attachment, okay. Now, when that doesn't happen, when a lot of us don't get that, it results in insecurity and trauma at a very deep level. And unless you address it, it can cause issues throughout your life, which can be passed on to our children. Okay. Now, healthy connections, they're especially important because they do what? They actually decrease the possibility of having trauma symptoms later in life. Okay, healthy attachments. Now, the issue is that people who don't seem to have a lot of traumatic events, you know, or people who are, all right, so we have this built-in preventative resilience in our body, which is what? A nervous system and brain when we have good connection. And that takes us to a level of health that supports our immune system and protects us from trauma reactions later. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that that if you have a life, you know, threatening event that you won't be stressed out, but the people who have secure attachment, they recover faster because of that secure attachment. You see what I'm saying? And the way their system is set up, their nervous system regulates due to secure attachment. If you had a good secure attachment growing up, your nervous system is going to regulate different than those of us who didn't. Give an example. You go off to college. You don't do well. And you're about to lose it. Like, oh my God, I didn't do well in this class. Man, oh man, my major, I'm just doing horrible in my major. And you can't call home because what are you going to hear? See, you up at that schoolhouse just running and playing around and you wasting my money or whatever. But if you got secure attachment,
yes,
Hey, look, it'll be all right. You know, ask if you can get extra credit. See what you can do to feel better. You know, you want to come home this weekend, we'll come up and visit you. We'll do all that. You see what I'm saying? With that, they bounce back quicker because of the way everything is regulated. You see, the way their nervous system regulates.
Yes.
As opposed to us who, you know, have done what? We've experienced this trauma throughout our life that gets passed on, that gets passed on, that gets passed on. So now we're talking about intergenerational, and we're talking about passing on behavior patterns to our kids. Okay. Now, we already know what secure attachment is. We know what trauma is. We know what secure attachment is. Now, what happens when we don't have? Now, this is the deep part. What happens when we don't have that secure attachment? Okay. There's 3 different types. Okay, there's 3 different types. There's avoidant attachment, there is ambivalent attachment, and there's disorganized attachment. Okay, so let's talk about it. Avoidant attachment. Okay, now as I'm going through these, Nicole, you may say, "Ooh, I know somebody. I know somebody," or you may find yourself in one of these. So let's just take a look. Okay, avoidant attachment. That's when a child is left alone, like a whole lot. And then they get rejected when they try to make contact. Oh, mom, look what I did. Look what I made at school for you today. Okay, I ain't got time to look at that. I'm trying to cook dinner. Just go on, hang it over there, put it up. I'll look at it later. Daddy, look what I made for you. I did this. Hey, boy, I ain't got time for that. All right, go show your mama. I'm watching the game, or I'm out here working on my car or whatever. They get rejected when they try to make contact. So as an adult, these people tend to be loners and have a hard time interacting with others. They tend to be loners and have a hard time interacting with others. Ambivalent attachment, okay? Ambivalent attachment is a situation where you may have had good love coming, you know, growing up, and it could have been, you know, good love coming from a parent, but it was inconsistent, okay? It was inconsistent. So what would be an example of that? A parent that, you know, loves the kid. I don't know if you ever saw the series Shameless, but in that series, you know, mom, you know, and dad was strung out on drugs or whatever. And mom would always come around and show up in their lives. And then she'd, you know, go on her binges and go away. And then when she left, she'd either, you know, take, you know, a VCR, take something she could sell to get drugs or whatever, but she always loved her kids. She missed her kid. But it's inconsistent. The love is inconsistent. And what happens is, as an adult, these people tend to focus excessively on the fear of being betrayed or abandoned. They focus on the fear of being betrayed or abandoned, and they have difficulty trusting a relationship for fear that may go away at any time. Ambivalent. Got some good love, but it's inconsistent. So, yeah, I don't really trust this relationship because, you know, my mom always left, so you're going to leave too. So ain't no need of even getting close to you. And then there's the third one. The third one is disorganized attachment. Disorganized attachment, okay? Now, in this one, the parent has some unresolved trauma or is scared themselves, or they're doing scary things in a relationship. And the child experiences the parent who's supposed to have supposed to be the safe haven for them as a source of threat. So as an adult, these people tend to make connections, but then they may sabotage the relationship because of an unexplained fear that arises. Why are you acting this way? Why are you behaving this way? You know what? Forget it. I'm gone. I'm out. I can't have this relationship with you. Yep. See, I knew you were going to leave. You leave like everybody else, but you're sabotaging the relationship because of that disorganized attachment. So I'll pause right there.
Sir, you are setting the captives free tonight. That's all I'm saying. Okay. You are, listen, Maya said, teach us, sir. Listen, I do a whole nother show called Singles Mingles where Kings Meet Queens. And
Mhm.
we focus on putting the fun back in dating, but I'm really like in this season of this, I really want us to go deep. And you just really broke it all the way down. Like y'all trying to get hooked up with these folks, y'all better see what their childhood relationships was like, because that can
Right.
explain a whole lot.
But this is why we as Black folks need therapy, because we are dealing with all of this schmutz that was passed down to us. Think about this. My mother, okay, her father, my grandfather, his father, how many years removed out of slavery? You see what I'm saying? You're coming right out of that.
Yeah.
My daughter teases me, about my age. Oh, you were born in segregation. And I'm just like, okay, little girl, you know. And so the issue is we're dealing with all of this stuff and we're trying to hold it together and we don't talk to anyone. And then we explode and it comes out in negative ways. And you wonder why you can't have a healthy relationship because it was something that was passed on to you.
Yep.
Why do you behave the way you behave? Because there's something going on that was traumatic that you never dealt with.
Yes.
Why do people get engaged involved in substances? There's something that they're looking for that they can't find. Why do people overeat? Because they're trying to fill a void about there was a study that was done. And this years ago, Dr. It escapes me. But anyway, it'll probably come to me. And he did this study and he said, okay, we're going to take these group of people and we're going to do a study on them. And we're going to see why these people, gain so much weight, what's going on. So they took a study group and you had your, placebo group and you had your other people that they were going to feed, healthy food and get them exercise or whatever. And there's one woman that she done very, very, very well in the program. And she lost a lot of weight. And then, a few months later, she started going back. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Why is this woman gaining this weight back? You were looking so good. You were doing so good. What happened? And what happened was she said to the doctor, she said, well, someone told me I looked good. One of the workers, in the clinic told me I looked good. And he was like, okay, you did. What's the issue? My grandfather always told me how pretty I was and I looked good before he sexually abused me.
Oh, yeah.
So she figured if I eat and get big, no one will look at me and no one will think that, I'm appealing. Right. So they'll stay away from me. Yeah. Why we do the things we do. So here's the thing. How can we get back, in the essence of time, how can we get back this secure attachment? Okay. Now, Nicole, I'm just kind of jumping around this because
it's a whole lot more. It's a whole lesson. You've got given us history. Listen, back to slavery, the childhood, all of it. So yes, I greatly appreciate it. So yeah, tell us, how can we do it?
So how we can get back secure attachment? Okay, you can practice getting back secure attachment. If you weren't lucky enough to, be born in a family with secure attachment, without blaming your mom and dad. Okay, without blaming mom and dad, because this happens culturally and generationally all over the world. Okay. Now, your mom and dad can't help the template they were given. Okay. But once you become more aware, once you become more mindful, there's a myriad of opportunities that you have to shift this behavior. Therapy. Okay. Secure attachment can be later learned in life if you didn't get it early in your childhood. Number one, in your marriage, that welcome home hug, when you holding that person for 20 or 30 seconds or whatever it takes to co-regulate each other. Just hold them like, I'm glad I'm home. I missed you today. 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40, 60 minutes, whatever it takes to regulate you guys. Okay. Now, when y'all out, Y'all go to a party or something and you see your husband, your wife, or your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or whatever across the room, and you get in that look of like, man, I love you. I really do love you. That helps nourishes that bond. When you're looking at them like, I just can't believe you were sent to me, or I can't even believe the things you, yeah, that nourishes that bond. Okay. Here's another very important one. When you're being protective of each other in public and not speaking disparagingly about one another when you're together, and being a safe person to be around. Being a safe person to be around. You ever go to the cookout and then the couple that's always arguing come later, but oh, here they go. So the guy go out to the grill with the other guys, and the woman go in the kitchen in there, and they said, "Girl, we always late. We got," and everybody's just like, "Oh Lord, here they come with that. I don't even want to hear them. They just always they speaking disparagingly about each other." You gotta support each other in public. Okay. Now here's another one, fun one. Okay, here's a fun one. Playing is another way to get back secure attachment. In this society, me especially, we work too much. We work too much. We don't play enough. And play brings us back to that secure attachment, and it refreshes our spirit and connects us to what we really like to do. And that is healing in itself. When the last time you played like you were 10 years old? We don't do that. We're so busy working. Okay. Here's my last point. I don't know. I'm saying that because I'm looking at the time. When a child is having a difficult time at a certain age, the child, get this now, the child is triggering a dormant wound in the parent that has not yet been resolved, which has not been resolved. So when that child is acting out, okay, I'll give you an example. I was seeing this woman in therapy, okay, and she was complaining about her daughter. I wasn't seeing the daughter, but I was seeing the mom, and she was complaining about how her daughter was acting out at age 9. And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Tell me what happened to you at age 9. What was going on with you?" Well, at age 9, I was going back and forth from my mother's house to my grandmother's house. They told me that my father was dead. He wasn't interested in me, whatever the case may be. Couldn't find him. So one day I looked up, me and a friend, we looked up some names in the what do you call it? In the yellow pages. Tells you how old this is. And we just started calling everybody that had my dad's name, and I found him. And then I found out that they had actually lied to me about my father. So bam, right there, this huge trauma event. So now dad's on the scene. And so now you got to deal with the people who are supposed to be secure attachment and realizing that they lied to me. Why did they lie to me? What made them lie to me? So you're dealing with all of that at age 9, and it went unprocessed. So she did what? She had a child and she pushed that through her womb and that DNA. And so now here her daughter is acting out at 9 years of age. And she started crying in the session because she realized that stuff was still sitting with her. And she passed it to her daughter. So her daughter began to act out. When you see kids acting out at a certain age, it doesn't mean that, oh, they're terrible twos, oh, they're acting up or whatever. No, a lot of times they're triggering that dormant wound that has happened in their parents that hadn't been resolved. And the more we heal ourselves, the more we heal our families. Think about that. The more we heal ourselves, the more we heal our families.
Absolutely.
Folks get out there in relationships and talk about, women will say, "Well, I'm not ready for a relationship right now. I was in a bad relationship before and I'm just looking for a friend." What do? I'm going to make her forget that dude. I'm going to shower her with flowers. I'm going to take her to dinner. I'm going to buy her something nice. I'm going to send her all kind of cards. And then so she started thinking about, okay, yeah, this could be all right. He could be all right. And then something happened bad in the relationship. She give you a chance. Something happened bad. And then she say, what? Where the guys are like, "Hey, what's wrong with you? You crazy." I told you I wasn't ready for a relationship.
Right.
We are all, I call it this. We are all pre-owned. We are all pre-owned. Now, what do you get What do you get, Nicole, when you buy pre-owned? Okay, what do you get?
You get
Dent,
all of the
dings,
issues.
mileage,
Yeah.
issues. You get all of that stuff. We are all pre-owned, okay? But nobody gets that certified pre-owned. You see what I'm saying? That 120-point inspection. Go to therapy. You've been in a relationship for long and it ended bad or ended. I need to go to therapy to heal from this before I give this just schlep these problems to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Powerful. That's all I can say is powerful. Okay, so I have been asked to ask this question. What's the difference, Dr. Terry Parks and Doc P? And how can the duality of a Black male therapist be beneficial when the duality is present in therapy with Black people?
So here's my point. There are a lot of people who come to see me and they have been to other therapists. They've been to other therapists that don't look like them.
Right.
I don't understand that to save my life. If I'm going to therapy, I want somebody who can relate to what I'm doing. I'm not saying that there are not good therapists out there who are of other ethnic groups.
But you
But if
want
I come from the
somebody who's
gutter,
culturally competent, correct?
right. But if I come from the gutter and my therapist happened to come from the gutter and just got a little bit refined or whatever, then they're going to understand where I'm coming from. Or they understand, like I remember what I mentioned, we have the same issues as white folk, but at a greater degree. I'm going to understand where you're coming from, my sister. I'm going to understand where you're coming from, my brother, because I've been there.
Right.
I know that. I know what you're going through. I validate you. I understand where you're coming from based on how you were raised and where you were born in the whole nine. I'm part of this conglomerate of therapists, and a therapist came on who was looking for a referral for a client for this young African American man, and he was afraid, and this was during COVID. He was afraid that he was going to be killed by the police. Okay. Now that's a reality for us as Black men, as Black people. And what did his white therapist tell him? Oh, that's just in your head. You don't have to worry about that. That's just in your head. What?
Okay.
But I can relate to that. I can relate to being harassed by the police and whatever. Okay.
Which is actually exactly why we do Conversations with Nicole, Mindset Monday, and Wellness Wednesday, because we are trying to normalize the conversation around mental health and wellness in the Black community. And so having Black counselors and therapists on to exchange, just like we did tonight, just like you so masterfully did tonight, Dr. Parks, is what it's all about. I really do hope that folks do get their counselors and therapists from Conversations with Nicole, from the guests that are on here, because this is, important. And it's something that we must do, especially based on the things that you have shared with us this evening. Okay. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to give us any final comments or words that you want to, and also tell folks how they can connect with you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for reaching out. I think we need to do more of this in our community. I think we need to heal ourselves so we can heal others and heal our families. If not, we're just going out here and just, being cut and bleeding on the next person and bleeding on the next person, And so I think it's very important that we all get therapy. Going to therapy doesn't mean that you have, some psychological issues going on. It can lead to that, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't, check your mental health, and so you can go to, if you are wanting to, see me or whatever, you can go to my website, which is www.anabh.org, a new approach behavioral health.org. Or you can call at 404-551-5571. And if I have room on my schedule, which I got a waiting list, but I try to move people, I try to get people in because it is so necessary. My I saw one young lady and she told all her friends, and all of her friends are coming to see me in therapy, and they call me Pastor Dr. Parks.
Ask the doctor.
Pastor Dr. Parks.
All right.
And it's a lot of this is just easy. You have to be willing and not willful. Okay. Willful is I'm refusing to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going. Willing is, you know what? I'm willing to go. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to get better. And if you want to get better, go speak to somebody. It doesn't have to be me, but go get it. What's the old charter thing? If you don't get help at charter, get help somewhere else. You don't have to come see me, but just go and, hey, I need to talk to somebody about something. I need to talk about my kids. I need to talk about the stress that I'm going through. I need to talk about, my marriage. I need to talk about whatever. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been really outstanding. I really hope the viewers have benefited from this. If you have, give us a thumbs up, some claps, something, a church finger, something. Let us know in the comments if you have benefited from this conversation tonight. I know I have. I took lots of notes and recorded quite a bit of this to share because you really broke it down for us. Kind of, I definitely got some new insights. So thank you, Dr. Terry Parks. What a wonderful way to spend my birthday. I appreciate this conversation so very much. You have no idea. So, anything you have coming up you wish to share, give you room to do that. For I guess folks in the Atlanta area, any speaking engagements that you might have that's open to the public, or anything, you let us know.
Not right now. People are pushing me to have a retreat. So I am working, on doing that. Not going to be like we're not going to go up in the mountains and do all that stuff first. We'll probably do something at a hotel, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
But I will let you know when it happens.
Please do, so I can get it out there. Vanessa wants to know, have you ever thought about writing a book on trauma?
No, but I am working on, I already have an outline for a book. Okay. And it's about how men call women bipolar, about everything. And that's the new catchphrase. She bipolar, she bipolar, she bipolar. And I said, what does that mean? You don't even know what that means. So that's some of the things I'm working on. Some relationship stuff.
Nice. Well, good deal. Well, again, thank you. And to the viewers who may be new to the platform, I definitely invite you to subscribe to the Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel, as well as check us out on Roku TV via Greater Words Network. Subscribing is supporting, and we need all the support we can get. So thank you again for y'all being here tonight and for celebrating with me on tonight. Tomorrow, I actually am doing a candidates meet and greet. That'll be at 6:00. Hubert Brown, attorney Hubert Brown, he's running for Florida House of Representatives, District 8. And so we'll do a virtual meet and greet at 6 p.m. So you can join us here for that. And then next Wednesday, I will not be live because I'm actually going to be having a birthday party. So Working Class Wednesday is hosting me at the Parkview at Cascades at 6 p.m. So you all are invited to attend. Even those who are out of town, y'all come on down to Tallahassee and join us for a good time. So definitely want to see you all in the place, but we will not be live that night because we'll be enjoying ourselves. So thank you. Again, cannot thank you enough for being here. And Dr. Parks, you got to come back.
Okay.
You got to come back. You got to come back. So, all right, good people. You all have a great rest of the evening, great rest of the week. Y'all be safe out there, and we will see y'all next time. Peace.